In today's episode of the HighKey Podcast, I interviewed Holly Moore. She specializes as a divorce lawyer, but she's also a boss CEO of her own firm called the Moore Family Law Firm. Guys, this was a great episode, very insightful in terms of going from the lawyer brain to the business brain and her entire transition throughout that. It's really inspiring. She came from having supporters in an actual law firm that she was working for to running her own business and losing out on those mentors and stuff because it was kind of a toxic environment. And just doing that pretty much by herself is just an incredible and inspiring story. And I really appreciated the conversation and what she was able to provide in terms of value to you guys. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. This is just a little quick intro. Let's get into it. So yeah, maybe dive into like a couple pivotal points in your childhood that, led you to becoming this like big CEO, going into family law and all of that. I feel like it all starts from childhood and what kind of formed you in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in a really small mountain town in California between Tahoe and Yosemite. And my dad owned his own business. And I just remember growing up, he was at all my volleyball games, all my swim meets. Like he had a lot of flexibility, but he worked really, really hard. And he just always taught me growing up, like having your own business is the way to go, especially if you wanted to have a family or whatever, because it gives you kind of the freedom to live life on your terms. So I think that's kind of where my desire to own my own law firm came from. But as far as me becoming a lawyer, I honestly, to this day, I don't really know where that came from. Nobody in my family is a lawyer. Neither of my parents went to college. It's just something that I wanted to do from very, very early on, like as far back as I can remember. So, but by the same token, my parents always told me, like, it doesn't matter what letters are after your name or what kind of fancy degrees you have. Like, if you don't have a really, really strong work ethic, you won't amount to anything, basically. So I was just raised with, like, being able to work crazy hard and be really driven.
Yeah. So specifically, why a divorce lawyer?
That's a really good question. So my parents are still married for over 50 years. Like growing up, I really didn't even have anybody in my inner circle that had been through a divorce. So being a divorce lawyer didn't come from any sort of like childhood experience directly in that way. I started off as a lawyer doing civil litigation and specifically construction defect, which is basically like really, really super uber wealthy landowners suing uber wealthy subcontractors, like big companies. And I just remember sitting at my desk at the time across from a client, and the client was like, "Holly, sue this concrete company." And I'm like, "Okay, we could do that. What am I suing them for?" And he's like, "I don't know, figure something out. Like, I can't stand that guy. I just want to annoy him." And it's like, this is litigation that's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and so many different people are pulled into it. And that was kind of a pivotal moment for me, realizing like, man, I did all this work to go to college, to go to law school, and like, this is what I'm doing with it. It just didn't sit right with me, like deep down. And just kind of as life works, like it just so happens the other partner in that particular law firm did family law. And I had a good relationship with her, so I told her my discontent essentially. And she's like, "Come work on the family law side, see if that is a better fit." And it just felt so good to my soul because I would talk to the clients and, there is a lot of technical legal stuff that goes along with it, which I really love and geek out on. But there's also like the more human element where I felt like I was truly helping these people. I wasn't just, suing people for no legitimate reason.
Was there like multiple cases like that, or was that just like one case and you were like, "Okay, I'm done with this"?
No, they're pretty much all like that in that particular industry.
And what's the industry exactly?
Construction defect. So, in Southern California, it's like these huge tracts of homes are being built, and they're kind of like slammed together probably pretty quickly and efficiently. So there's stuff that goes on with them, and it's the big companies, land developers suing subcontracting companies for those defects.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I can see how that can not be really on the human side.
Right. Yeah.
But the divorce is kind of deep in the emotional and you're going really deep on the human side. So
for sure.
That's a big switch.
It's a huge switch. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I really feel like it's been my unofficial experiment in human behavior and relationships and marriage and all of that. I mean, it is very emotional. It is very deep. There's many layers. Interpersonal relationships are probably the most complicated thing any of us will ever have in our lives. And it's just been really fascinating to kind of see how all that works and how people relate to each other, and why are these people who seem like they're pretty normal, good people, why are they acting so crazy all of a sudden in a divorce? All of that has been very fascinating and has taught me so much that I've taken back to my own personal life and been able to kind of use for good.
Yeah, you probably learn a ton personally. What is that crazy?
Yeah, yes, I have learned so much. I mean, not only just from the emotional side of going through a divorce and how that, sits with some people, but I've also learned so much about different careers, because I have to know, representing these people, income is a big issue in a divorce. So it's I have to really learn about what is their job, what do they do, what is their earning capacity, things like that. I've learned things about different special needs of children, because that can be a huge issue in custody. I've learned things about investing, because it's well, what are we going to do with this investment over here? And it's what is that? We got to figure out a way to divide it. I've learned so much about so many different things. That part has been really awesome.
Yeah. It's funny because our divorce or our family law court case was the biggest in Manitoba, the top one case.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the province of Manitoba in Canada. Yeah, so it was crazy. It was a 10-year case, and I could never really get the court side and everything out of my parents, because it's just so
wow,
so detailed.
Yeah.
And so I've always been interested in how that process looks in terms of what goes into it, all the energy, because I think my dad represented himself, and so there was my mom got a lawyer in a bit, but I think there was self-representation. And so
wow.
Yeah, what do you think in terms of having a lawyer and self-representation?
Well, of course I'm biased, right? This answer is going to sound self-serving, but you don't know what you don't know. I mean, I kind of self-identify as a lawyer, even though I own a business. I identify as a lawyer, so I have business coaches to guide me along the way in business. Just when somebody's dealing with the legal system in any aspect, I mean, you kind of need a guide. I have people that come to us all the time hiring our firm that did their own divorce, and in the moment it seemed like it went well. They're yeah, it was great, we saved all this money, we didn't hire lawyers. But what they don't realize is they didn't do certain things to protect themselves in the final divorce judgment, is what we call it. So it's they have problems years after. I have a case right now where it's he's gonna probably spend $50,000 because he didn't think he needed to include his separate property house, a house that everybody knew was his and his alone. He was it's mine and mine alone. Why do I need to put it in the judgment? Well, he needed to put it in the judgment to protect it. And now years later, it's becoming an issue. So you don't know what you don't know. I think it's always especially our legal system. It's one of the slowest evolving things on the planet. And I think originally it was built to kind of as a barrier to lay people. It's not user friendly. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And it hasn't evolved like everything else in the world has. Like, it's still very slow to adopt technology and things like that. So it's like you really need a liaison, a guide, whatever you want to call it, to lead you through it, and so that you are making sure you're protecting yourself properly.
Yeah, that's very true. I think part of it is like, I mean, my dad, he does know a lot, but like obviously what you said, like how do you go about finding a good lawyer or a good firm, or like, you know, someone that you can trust and that would stick with you for a 10-year case, right? Because like a lot of people, like that's a grueling time period to be, and sometimes like divorces go that long or even
yeah, for sure. That's a super great question. And you know, it's like, I'm going to say these words, but as I'm saying them, I'm like, well, every lawyer is going to say they care, or every lawyer is going to say, like, I'm going to fight for you. I mean, on some level, it kind of comes down to like a gut feeling. Like when this lawyer is telling you, yes, I care about your case, I will make sure you're protected. Like, do you feel like they mean it? You know, I mean, I think it's almost like an energetic thing. The other thing is, like, you absolutely want somebody who's experienced. There's a lot of lawyers out there who do all different types of law. And, you know, it's kind of the old, like, jack of all trades, master of none. Those lawyers, I think, are kind of the most dangerous because they don't understand all the nuances and the complexity that family law can have. So I would say, like, for sure, get somebody who specializes in family law. And I would also, one of the things that we are proud of at our firm is the team approach. In family law in particular, it's fairly easy for a lawyer to just like stand up a solo practice. You know, if they've got a cell phone and a laptop, they can pretty much say, like, I have a family law firm. Unlike some of the other disciplines where you need a huge team because it's like, you know, thousands of pages of documents and things like that. In family law, you can just kind of be a one-person show. But the thing about that is, like, you're then also paying that lawyer to make copies and to answer the phone for every call and to do all the things. And while it might seem like, oh, this lawyer's really cheap, you know, they're only charging $300 an hour or whatever. Well, it's also because you're paying $300 an hour for your copies to get made and things like that. So, like, one of the things that we're proud of at our firm is you get the team approach. And one of our lawyers will never be making copies, you know, standing at the copy machine. One of our lawyers will never be, like, doing work that somebody else could do for a more appropriate rate for that particular task. I want to add something to my list. I think it's really important to also get a lawyer that kind of shares your same core values, which that's kind of not a lot of people talk about that, but I think it's super important because, like, I know for myself, my firm primarily represents business owners and professionals, and usually the breadwinner of the family. And the reason why is because, like, we really believe in what those people have done for their family. You know, they've made sacrifices, they've worked really hard, they've done a lot of things to provide for their family or to get where they got in their career or in business or whatever. And, like, those people, I'm like, I will fight for you. Like, I want you to be protected. So, you know, but if you were that business owner and you hired a lawyer that maybe thought, you know, that kind of maybe sided more with, like, stay-at-home moms, like, no, I think a stay-at-home mom should be able to stay home forever and never work. Like, that's kind of an important thing to know.
Yeah, 100%. It's like recruiting a team. You know?
Right.
You almost have to go through an interview process and be like,
absolutely,
you know, are these guys worthy to come onto the team and, you know, be with me for this amount of time.
Right.
I mean, like, when you're recruiting for a team, you want someone that wants to stay for 10 years and grow within the business.
Absolutely.
It's the same thing if you're recruiting someone like a lawyer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, cool. I want to go back to, like, the postgraduate and, like, school times for you and, like, what that was like, you know, challenges. Were you good at school? Did you like it? And, like, how you kind of came into to your career.
Sure, yeah. I did always really like school. And I was I guess you could say I was pretty good at it. But and college was fine. But in law school, I was really unhappy. And I wanted to quit like almost every day. And most of the reason for that is because like a lot of my friends, by that time in your life, like my friends were going out and getting real jobs, making like 60 grand a year. I'm like, gosh, they are living the dream. Like they have a real job, like this is all, I'm still taking out student loans. And so like,
how much student loans did you take?
I have about 200,000.
Okay, yeah, that law, doctors, like that's pretty standard.
Yeah. So yeah, but like I was in law school, and it's also like a ton of work. I wasn't going out on the weekends or whatever. I was studying a lot, and it was hard. I mean, I say like I was good at school, but also like it didn't totally always come super naturally to me. I mean, I did have to work at it. But I found law school to be challenging and kind of miserable, really. And it was just like, a lot of delayed gratification. Because like I said, like I wasn't making any money. I'm still racking up debt. I'm not able to do anything fun. And all my friends are doing cool stuff,
Wait, so like you never did fun stuff?
I mean, I wouldn't say I never did fun stuff, but not like my friends were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember I wanted like a BMW so bad, and like some of my friends got a BMW, and I'm like, oh, like I'm still not making any money. So it was, like it was a grind. It was a grind for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So then what was it like after that? Like getting maybe your first job, like making your first dollar. Yeah. What was that like?
So during law school, I worked at the law firm that did construction defect and family law, and so I like got a job there. That was my first lawyer job. And, because of how my parents raised me and my dad having his own business, I always knew I wanted to open my own firm. So my plan was to work at that firm or another firm for 5 years. And then, then I would learn all that I needed to learn, and then I could go and open my own office. And like 3 to 6 months into working as a lawyer, I opened my own firm. So I didn't stick with my 5-year plan.
You got there a little fast.
I got there a little faster.
Like school was too long. Okay, like I wasn't making money for long enough. I gotta jump right into this.
Yeah. I mean, and more so, it was like, I'm super grateful to that firm because they did teach me so much, and they let me work there in law school, and I learned so many really valuable things and got great experience. But as time went on, it drove me nuts how they treated the clients, because they they wouldn't take the calls when they came in, and they would kind of like keep pushing off the clients, and the clients would get increasingly more frustrated and scared and like, why can't I talk to my lawyer? Why are they not calling me back? And it just like, I'm like, man, like I could do better. I may only have like been a lawyer since yesterday, but I can definitely like call people back and, give clients like what they deserve. So it was frustrating in the moment, but like looking back, it was such a gift, because had everything just been great, I would have, probably stayed there for who knows how long. But it was like, because I was also the person answering the phone, talking to the clients, dealing with their frustration, going, I'm sorry, like she's in court again, even though she wasn't, like I'm trying to, make everybody be happy and patient and all of that. And so it was really hard, and I was like upset about it. But again, looking back, it was such a gift, because it really kind of pushed me to do my own thing. And, that was hard at first too, though, like opening your own practice. I mean, that's hard. You got to figure out how to get clients and also what to do as a lawyer for them. That's not easy. It was certainly hard, but I'm really glad that I did it.
Yeah.
And I'm still doing it.
Let's dive deeper into like the transition from that. And like, was there like a click moment or like, this isn't for me? I got to do my own thing and build my own thing and be a CEO and be this kind of like business owner that your dad always wanted you to be or thought that you could be?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was a lot of moments like that. That I don't know for sure, but from outside observation, like I don't think that firm was run very well financially. So they also had like a hard time paying me. And they would like hide on payday. So I know, but again, like such a gift, I like to, now I'm like, I should have paid them for like, making me leave. So the transition was hard though. I figured out what I needed to do like legally, because you have to have like special bank accounts to put client money in. There's some things that you have to do, you have to set up. And also, they were really upset when I left. And so I basically like lost any sort of like attorney mentors that I had for the previous 5 years through law school and taking the bar exam and all of that, because they were really mad. So here I am, trying to start a new law practice, no lawyer mentors to really look to. I think I had like 2 clients at the time that came with me, and basically a spare bedroom. But I always believed, and I still believe, like if you just give the client like this, if you understand where our clients are coming from, which is a place of fear and frustration and hurt, like, and you meet them where they are, and you truly have the heart to like want to help them and take their burden to the extent that we can, take the burden off of them, like you're doing a good thing. So that's like what I did, is I just gave my clients amazing service, and also did some pretty good lawyering too. And it's kind of just snowballed from there, and it takes time. At that point, just opening my firm, I didn't know about marketing or anything like that. So I didn't do any marketing. I wasn't like on social media talking about it. It was really just referral driven in those early years.
Yeah. So when did you know that you were a good lawyer? Because I feel like, in any career, there's always that like phase that you came out of law school, and then like, you have a little bit of imposter syndrome. You don't know if like... I
still have that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like it doesn't really go away. It just like goes to like another level. Like, am I a good CEO?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah. I still have days where I'm like, maybe I'm not as good as this. Maybe I need a new job. I think, again, like life is just interesting how opportunities come to you. And I happened to just get some referrals of some like much bigger cases than probably I was even ready for. And so I found myself at like 26 years old, 28 years old, in these like really big trials with, 60-year-old guys that had been doing it for 30 years, that were just like cutthroat. And like those, like a couple of those pivotal trials, like went really, really good. And I was like, okay, like maybe I can do this, maybe this is like my thing. So that certainly like built my confidence. But even in the early years where I was maybe more unsure of myself as a lawyer, I always knew I was going to be more prepared than the other guy, or gal, but most of the time it's a guy. Because I'm like, I'll just outwork them. I'll just prepare more. I'll put in more time. You know what I mean? Like, I'll know the client better and what they want. And that got me very far.
Wow. Yeah, that's an incredible mentality to have. And preparation is like extremely underrated in every domain, but definitely as a lawyer.
Yeah, very true.
Do you have any like insights in terms of preparation that would help someone?
You could never be too prepared. You know, I mean, that's not terribly insightful, but I think that's the truth is, like, and I mean, sometimes it's hard because, you know, especially like as a lawyer going to trial, I mean, you know, I talk about it with the other attorneys in my firm. It's like, yeah, that night before trial, you're up all night because you're like, maybe I should look at this case law. What if this comes up? Which it's like such a fringe issue. It's so unlikely to come up. But, you know, it's just that mentality of like, I got to know everything there is to know about this, or at least have enough information to be able to spin it my way when I need to, if I need to. So I think, and I guess the other thing I would say is like, there's really no shortcut for preparation. You know, like you really just have to put in the work.
Yeah, 100%. Did you ever have times where like you messed up and you're like, damn, like you didn't do as good a job for a client?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yes, I'm sure there has been times where I'm like, yeah, where I was like, I should have, you know, done this or that in preparation. Like I probably could have handled that better, you know, in trial or whatever. I mean, I would say more of the case is like I did everything I could and it was just like the wrong result, which is almost more frustrating because I'm like, dang, I did everything I could and like the judge got it wrong, you know? Whereas if I messed up, like it's in my control. And so it's like, okay, I know what I need to do next time, or I know how I'm going to fix this for the client or something like that. But I think the more frustrating thing is like when you do everything and it doesn't go your way and it feels out of your control, that's probably the most frustrating thing about this job.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So going back to the transition from kind of like lawyer to like turn it into your own thing, going towards CEO mode, you know, what was that like? Take us through that kind of journey.
Yeah. So for a really long time, my husband was actually like, where's your business plan? What's the deal? Like, why did you name your firm Moore Family Law Group if it's only you? Like, what's going on here, lady? And, you know, I was like, I had small children and, you know, there were certain things that just kind of, you know, partially I was like, I'm not a business person, I'm a lawyer. Like, don't bother me with the business aspect of it. The other part was like, I need to get through like having kids and that phase of my life before I really like, you know, put some concentrated effort into this. So, but then again, through just, you know, opportunities that present themselves, like I met like a coaching group specifically for law firms, and it just completely blew my mind, and like turned my world upside down in the best way possible, because they made me see like there's a whole like system to when you would hire a new person. Like there's a whole thing about having financial controls. There's this whole thing called marketing. And I'm like, what? Like not everybody is just flying by the seat of their pants. I did not know this. So like that coaching program just like helped me so immensely. And I mean, most of it is personal development, you know, having the right mindset. Like that's such, you know, that's so huge. And personal development always precedes professional development. So a lot of it was just like, you know, owning who I am, taking responsibility, like getting rid of all the stories that we all have in our heads about why we can't do this or shouldn't do that or whatever. And just kind of being like, you know what? I believe in what I do. Like, I believe that, you know, what we do really helps people, and like, let's do it for as many people as we possibly can.
So you're starting this business, running this business, you're married, you have kids, you're juggling both that, work-life balance. Kind of dive into how that looks, operating and starting a business.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I have memories of like holding my brand new baby like at 2 a.m. and like doing trial prep, you know, because I had trial the next day. And, so it certainly is challenging. I mean, it still is challenging. I have 3 kids. So it's, there's no such thing as work-life balance. It's just really a matter of like, okay, when they really need me to be there, like I want to, be there, of course. But sometimes, if they're good and whatever, like I focus on work. I think the person that you choose to do your life with, your spouse, is like insanely important. So far, I feel like I chose pretty well. I mean, being a divorce lawyer, I'm like, it's never over till it's over. Like, we don't know. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. But, so far it's gone pretty well. And so, he's super supportive and an amazing dad, and just like really is supportive of everything that I do. So that's made it, as easy as it ever could be, even though it's still challenging.
Yeah. Do you think it would be bad looks if you got divorced?
No, actually. So he gets mad at me because I'm always like, I wonder what it would be like if we divorced. Like, because I'm like, man, I hope I would have learned some things from my clients and like not fall into the pitfalls that they do. And he's like, stop saying that. Like, oh my gosh. But no, I think probably if I got divorced, it would be good for business because I would be like, I really get you now. I mean, business isn't that important to make that happen, but yeah.
100%. What are the main pitfalls? Like, I'm interested. Like, there's got to be like a few core ones.
Well, I just think like fighting over things that are not going to matter 6 months from now, but it's like the thing that they're fighting about is never the thing. Basically, they're fighting. The reason why they're fighting over certain things is for another reason. They've lost control. They want to just like get the other person out of spite or whatever. I say like you should look at litigating your divorce like an investment. Like what is going to produce the most return on your investment? And like, let's do that. And let's not do all the other stuff. I mean, when I first started like having that thought was when I bill out at $600 an hour, and most other attorneys in my area, similar, give or take $100, $100 to $100. And we're like in court, and my client is wanting me to, deal with the Keurig, like the coffee maker thing that's like $100. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like like now we have 2 attorneys each billing at who knows how much an hour, $500-$600 an hour, talking about $100 coffee maker thingy. Like, what a waste of time and resources, like, so it's just like, hopefully I would not be fighting over the Keurig in my divorce. And, hopefully I wouldn't be fighting over anything, but, I think just, not letting your emotions drive what you're fighting for. Some things are worth fighting for. I completely understand that, and I support that. And sometimes I'm the one that's like, no, you should fight for this. But there's a lot of things that are not worth it, and you should just let them go. Like, my client was a super successful person. Like I ended up buying him a Keurig. I'm like, we're going to go after court today. I'm going to buy you your Keurig. But like, honestly, he could have taken that energy that he was investing in wanting to fight over the Keurig and like made that money and bought, like it's just kind of ridiculous. But it's because it's driven by emotions.
Yeah, exactly. People are overstimulated. They're hyperactive, especially in that state,
right.
Getting divorced and stuff. Like every little thing ticks you.
Right.
And
yep.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Have you had any cases with kids and stuff, and like how does that look? Because like I feel like there's a lot of focus obviously on your side with like parents, but like I feel like kids can have like the short end of the stick when it comes to divorces.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, maybe you're speaking from experience, but yeah, that is. Right. Yeah. I mean, I think you're doing okay. But that's one of like the most tragic aspects of what we do is because usually kids are the ones that suffer the most because, one, it's just a hard dynamic, anyway. Like, even under the best circumstances, your parents getting divorced is difficult. But then if you throw in parents who are getting divorced that really can't see the big picture and do what's best for the kids in that moment, and so they're doing things that possibly is causing additional harm to the kids, that's really sad, like from our perspective. So that is hard. I don't actually like the really intense custody cases really aren't my favorite. I would rather deal with like the really complicated financial issues. But I mean, there's, 2 other attorneys at my firm like love custody cases because, it's just like where their heart is. But yeah, they can be heartbreaking for sure.
Is one easier than the other? Or do they both have like their own implications?
Yeah, I think, they're easy and hard in different ways. The financial issues, it's more, I would say it's more of an intellectual thing. And the custody cases, one of the reasons why they're not my favorite is also because the court has so much discretion. So it's like, even though we could do an amazing job, if the judge decides to do this or that, like it feels, I guess, more out of our control than like financial issues because there's more specific standards. Of course, there's still, there's still gray areas and everything. That's what keeps us, employed as lawyers.
Yeah.
But I would say the custody stuff is certainly more emotional and it's more discretionary with the court.
Gotcha. So diving into more of like the business aspect for you, going from like, you had like two other lawyers that came with you from the previous job.
2 clients. I had 2 clients.
Okay, yeah, you had no lawyers.
No lawyers, no.
No lawyers. You lost your mentors, you lost everyone. You had 2 clients that came with you. And so like, what was that like, and like how did it grow into like what it is now?
Yeah. So what that was like was, before when I talked about the lawyer, like making the copies and all of that, I mean, I know that from personal experience where, you're doing everything. And I always kind of felt like I shouldn't be charging the clients at all to do that. So I just ended up giving a ton of my time away, which again, like looking back, it's like, it's all good because I learned things from it, things like that. But certainly like hiring your first like real employee is scary because all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, now I'm like responsible for that person's mortgage, like not just mine, but like they're counting on me to be able to pay their bills. And that's really scary at first. But now through the years, like we have, depending on what's going on, like 25 employees, it's really like exciting to hire somebody new because I'm like, wow, like your people are your biggest asset, and when you have good people, it's amazing. Like the machine is amazing. So it's not scary anymore, but at first it was really scary.
Well, was there a difference in like kind of like that imposter syndrome aspect from being a lawyer to being a business owner? Because we kind of took like 2 of those.
Yes, for sure. So, I mean, a couple things on that. One, lawyers are notoriously terrible business people. Of course, there's an exception to every rule. But I think just the way like lawyers are trained to think is kind of opposed to business. As a lawyer, you never ask a question you don't already know the answer to. You never make a mistake. Like mistakes are life and death to your clients. So, whereas in business, everything's kind of a test and like you're just like finding your way through failure in business. So it's like 2 completely like diametrically opposed mindsets almost. So, making like kind of toggling between those 2 ways of thinking is interesting. But I think, as I get more like further along in my journey of owning a business and being a CEO, like it starts to become really fun, because it's like let's try this, let's do that, and it's like, I really believe in what we do. So at the end of the day, like, no matter what happens, I'm like, hey, if this helps us be able to help more people, like, we're doing good. Like, maybe this month was up, maybe it's down, whatever, but like, we're doing good work that I believe in, and so it's all good.
Yeah. Cool. Well, like you said, you got into that coaching program for mentorships, and I'm interested because, like, it is hard going at business alone, especially when you like don't have anyone to connect with. Like, I have my 2 brothers, so it's definitely a lot easier on that front. We can talk to each other.
Yes.
We can go back and forth. We're together in it. So like, what was it like being alone, and like, how were you able to like find these like mentors or people to help you along on your journey that allowed you to excel?
Yeah, it was lonely. It was lonely and scary. I would say like my husband was probably the one sort of, thing that helped me, because he is not a business owner. He's a fireman, but he has a really savvy business mind and like financial mind. He's kind of like gifted in that regard. So he was always kind of my sounding board for that. And then as I, again, kind of like got more into the coaching space and things like that, I realized, wow, there's like a ton of resources, available. Not a ton, but there are resources available to connect with other business owners, to kind of share struggles, share ideas, that kind of a thing. So even though I was in that coaching program that I referenced earlier, like, I also joined a CEO group where it's like, I'm the only lawyer in there, and it's like, owners of manufacturing companies and owners of branding agencies, all different types of businesses, which is kind of cool because sometimes you get ideas from them that you would have never gotten from like another lawyer. And also it's just like, it doesn't feel so lonely to know that they're also having this or that issue, or they've solved this or that problem by doing X, and now you could try that too. So I've kind of been able to connect with some great resources that have allowed me to kind of have other sounding boards and things like that.
Yeah. So you were never in like a direct like lawyer type of business group? Like, it was all different industries? Did you ever have like a time where like it's like, I feel like advice from like different types of businesses can like lead you astray a bit. If it doesn't align with what you're doing in your business. I found that to be true, like when like looking at other people's stuff, and then you try and implement it, and it gets you off track a bit because it's just like it's not where you're at necessarily, or like
right.
what you're doing in your business.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, you certainly have to be discerning about, like, you have to be confident in that your business the best. That is kind of like a hard lesson I've learned with mentors and stuff, is they'll tell you do this, or they'll be like, this is what's up with that, and it's like, at the end of the day, nope, I'm the one that has boots on the ground in this business. Like, you have to have confidence that you do know your business best. And you do have to be discerning about like any advice that you take or things that other people have done that worked, automatically assuming they're going to work for you. Like, yes, I agree with you. That can kind of derail you a little bit. But one of the that first coaching program I joined is only lawyers. So, but it's the same thing there too, where you just have to know your business the best and be confident in that. Some people, like, they'll try anything anybody says because they're like, well, I don't know, maybe I don't know. I think part of it is just like having confidence. Like, I know I know who my ideal client is, what they look like, where they go for information. Like, I know my staff, my team, what I want them to be like, what the culture of the business is, things like that, and just like have confidence in that.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's pretty much spot on. Do you like being a business owner or a lawyer more?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question.
What would you give up?
I love being a lawyer, and like, there's nothing more exhilarating to me than like being in trial, but it's so much pressure all the time, like the pressure never releases. You finish one trial or one case or whatever, and you go to the next one. Like, there's no break. The pressure never releases. It's a constant flow of really high stakes, deadlines, pressure, all of those things. And that can be kind of exhausting. So as I'm getting older, could, maybe be okay with not having so much pressure all the time. And I'm having really a lot of fun with the business aspect of it. There is a side of me that's super creative. And so I find that like the business aspect kind of fills my creative void. And that's the part that's like really fun for me. So I don't know. That's a really hard one. Ideally I would like to have a couple cases that are super interesting and then focus the rest of my time on the business.
Yeah, 100%. I get that creativity part as well. It's like you have like that itch. And I know probably most lawyers don't have that.
Right.
It's like you were explaining, like, the lawyers are pretty dead set on what they're doing and they don't really have that business aspect, and the business aspect is creative.
Right. Yeah.
How have you been utilizing the creativity in your business?
I think in just like developing and reinforcing the culture in the office, in the firm, thinking about different things that the team would want or that would, inspire them, like putting together like educational stuff like within the office. That's been kind of fun. I think also one of the things I really love is like designing a really amazing client experience, from the very first time they call our office until their case is done, like just curating that experience that like leaves them being like, wow, these people, they cared, they know what they're doing, they paid attention to all the details that made my life better, easier, made me feel cared about, whatever. I really like doing that. Fun stuff like the interior design of the office, that's more like on a superficial level, but I like that too.
Gotta have the superficial level.
Yeah.
Wait, you do the actual designing?
I work with an amazing interior designer, but like if I wasn't a lawyer, I would be an interior designer. So we're kind of like, we call ourselves the dream team, me and my interior designer. My husband calls us like the nightmare team because things escalate very quickly.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So for where you guys are at now in the company, and then like where are you trying to go in the next like 5 years? Like what are your goals?
Yeah. So we want to help 15,000 clients in the next 5 years. And we want to be the biggest and the best firm in our geographical region. So we've got some work to do, but it's exciting and it's, exhilarating.
Yeah. 15,000 clients, you just like list that off. You had that in mind. 5 years was like that's like what if I said 10 years?
10 years? Okay, I don't have that plan yet.
Okay, yeah.
But I do have the 5-year plan, and it does include helping 15,000 clients. Yeah.
I think 5 years is a good amount of time for a plan, because like if you go 10, it's like some crazy things could happen. AI could be taking over the world.
Right. Yeah. The world could be run by robots by then. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah. So what advice would you have to like lawyers maybe like looking to get into business?
I would say don't be like, get out of your lawyer brain. Don't be afraid to try things and fail. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, because that's, I think that's every lawyer's like Achilles heel in business is we're just terrified of making mistakes and failing, and you can't think that way in business. So just go for it. There's never the perfect time. There's never, the right time. Like, you just go for it and fail your way to success.